This is like.
All right, 7 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. Planning and zoning members, Chris and Sue will be joining us a little bit later this evening. If everybody could take a moment to review the minutes from last month.
On motion.
We have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor of approving last month's minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All ayes. First topic, update and discussion concerning data center wells. Brian, I think you have an update for us, is that correct?
Yes. So we met via Zoom with the DNR last Thursday and just discussed what was going on out there in that area. They do have a permit, or they did have a permit for the one well that they drilled at the concrete plant on the north end of their site, which is a little ways in from our area and a long ways away from the parking lot. Somewhere out there, and I'm still not clear, and I don't know if it's theirs or if it's Google, but somewhere farther east, and I believe it's on Cherry Valley Road, south of 76th. There's gonna be another concrete plant. It might be for the Google site, not quite sure on that, but I believe I heard them say that they're working on a permit for that one. That's only gonna be for the plant. And they had requested another well, which was the one that we were concerned about, that was closest to our parking lot. And the DNR did not allow that one because it exceeded the personnel. So if the wells is feeding more than 25 people, it has to be a public well. And they were not gonna grant that because of that, all the people that are gonna be there, 3,000 people that are gonna be there. Not all of them are gonna use it that way, but because of that reason, it was gonna have to be a well, and include a treatment and all that stuff. And they were not gonna allow that, so we were told with a meeting with Layton that they were not drilling that well. This was before the DNR's meeting, so we didn't know exactly why, but they weren't. And it sounded like they were waiting for Cedar Rapids to get the water that they're bringing up there to them. Just wait to get to that point because they thought it was going to be there quick enough for them. And that's about the most that I know.
Do you have a gauge on depth of the wells in question?
I believe the one that's on the north end was 260, I think, so it's not. When we talked a long time ago about residential wells, and I think that's what they consider it. It's a shallow one, not the 500 feet or 2,000 feet, depending on which aquifer they're going for, but they were shallower if it met what they needed for quantity of water. And, I questioned the DNR about that as well, because there's a figure on, like, they were supposed to average X amount of yards per day. And how many gallons goes into a yard, and that number kept it, and 25,000 is a break point. It involves a different commit once you hit 25,000. Well, the 700 gallons, or 700 yards a day was in the 19 to 20,000 gallons just for the concrete alone. And so I asked them about what happens with the washing the trucks down, all that stuff. Where does that water come from? Does that count against it? And, well, I don't know. We'll have to look into that one a little closer, but I don't anticipate that's gonna change. We've already far enough along. It is what it is for that. But, I think that's all the new information I have.
Any potential adverse effects for Fairfax?
No, I don't believe so. It's shallow enough, they're not using that much. We'll still be able to monitor what is going on if we're seeing anything, but I assume they're already using it. I haven't heard that officially, but, we have noticed a difference on our well monitoring, so. I don't anticipate that one being a problem, and it's even better that they are not doing the one that's closest to us, so.
Does appear you might have some concerns on forever chemicals.
Well, that's a possibility. Now, we have it around the airport, as everybody knows from the media that is in the area. The gentleman, the one and only property on Cherry Valley Road between 76th and Wright Brothers, and I don't know the name, but he reached out when he found out they were gonna put the well in there. And a coworker of his reached out and gave him my name to ask him questions. And so he was just concerned about the, using the water, what his level was gonna be like. And so I offered just information to go check with their people. I believe this is a different group, not QTS. And he said that he had the card for the foreman. And so I told him, reach out to the foreman, see, a lot of these businesses will help you with monitoring, put data loggers on, which is the same thing we're gonna do for our well, when we do the pumping test here soon. And they can put a data logger in there and keep track of his well heights when they start pumping water and see if it affects it. And during that conversation, he had stated that the DNR, or not DNR, the county health department comes out twice a year right now to monitor his well for PFAS to see if it's migrating his way, because he'd be probably the next closest well coming north. And so I think they're looking for it, and it hasn't been a hit yet. But after doing a little bit of research on my own, it has migrated to the south, and there's quite a few down around the Swisher area that are having issues that are showing up, whether they're above the limits or near the limits. Is, that's on the DNR's website stuff too, so. It may be favoring going to the south as the aquifer. Possibly, I know the topography goes that way as well, so maybe the aquifer goes that way, I'm not sure, but. Leading to believe if that's the case, that's probably what's going on, so we may be less susceptible that they're looking this to see, at least see if it starts showing up. So.
That's something you are gonna look at, start to monitor in the near future?
Well, we are signed up to get a free test. When it comes around, they'll get us, but we're also gonna do a test right off of this new well from the get-go, when we take our samples, just because it's a prudent thing to do, so. We're gonna do that, and then when the future one comes up, we're on a schedule, whenever that schedule comes up, we'll get, I believe it's tests from all of us at that point. And it was free to us, so it's a funded thing, so.
Anyone have any further questions for Brian?
I'll be here for a while for more.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving on, we'll talk, update discussion concerning impacts of airport's proposed 7,400 foot runway on Fairfax future land use map and Fairfax comp plan. Cynthia, if you want to put up the runway impact on future land use. In front of you guys, there is the bottom one down. So this would be, let's point out, there should be a larger one near you as well. Did you attend or see city council meeting last week?
I was there.
Good. Obviously, we've had some discussions on Alliant power plant in the area. Obviously, CID has some opposition to that. Part of that is a proposed new runway north of Wright Brothers Boulevard. We look directly north of the airport on your map. It'd be to the north of Wright Brothers. They're also crossing Edgewood Road. That would be in the flight path of the airport, as you can see, for future land use, industrial, commercial, residential. So that would have an impact to the south of Fairfax for future land use.
So that brings the runway quite a bit closer to Fairfax.
Correct.
So, Brian, with these forever chemicals, with the runway closer, coming closer to that, is that a potential for more impact on the aquifer?
Well, I wouldn't say completely no, and the only reason I wouldn't say no is that majority of the issue came from history of a couple aircraft fires back in the 70s, is my understanding. And so when they did that, there was a lot of AFFF applied, and then it stays on the ground, and then over time it migrates down to the ground and then to the water.
Are any of the de-icing chemicals part of that?
Well, I'm not sure. I have not heard that, but I have not investigated that either. Then any training that they had in the 70s, 80s, 90s, before this all came about, they used the AFFF foam on trainings on site, so that didn't help. And now I believe that now that the issue is what it is, the foam itself, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it has less of that in it, so that, try not to harm the ground and air nature and whatnot. So I'm assuming it's less in it and they're different, but if maybe there's something else in there that we don't know about yet, 20, 30 years, we're gonna hear about it again. So I can't say no, but I think it's gotta be better. And I know they lean towards not using that particular foam, especially for training. So I'm assuming there's less used now than there was before. That's my understanding is how it really all got started.
Thank you.
So within that future land use area to the south, a few of us have been here for a while. We've spent quite a bit of time figuring out the best use as we extend further south. About 307 acres that could be potentially impacted.
That's just in the direct flight path, right, Shane?
Yeah, so the 307 acres, if you look at. So that triangle to the west coming off the proposed runway is the high impact zone that the airport provided at the council meeting last week. The 307 acres we put on there, basically what we came up with that number is, if you look at the existing airport, there's a purple line that surrounds all of the property that's owned by the city of Cedar Rapids and the airport commission. And as you can see on the existing east-west runway, the city owns about 8,000 feet out from that runway. So obviously, we don't know for sure, but we can anticipate that the city of Cedar Rapids, the airport commission is gonna look to buy up, a mile and a half to 2 miles out west of that runway if that happens. That's gonna get into the primary industrial and commercial growth area for the city of Fairfax, which the city will be able to do anything, because they'll buy it up and they'll hold it. And understandably, if the runway is there, they want to keep it safe and keep no development in that direct path immediately off the runway, but again, that's 307 acres, excuse me, that would be east of Maple Grove Road to the city's existing annexation boundary limits with the city of Cedar Rapids. So, I mean, it'd be realistic, planning and zoning commission to anticipate that area, that runway happens.
Big growth area.
Yeah, that's a big growth area for Fairfax, and if that runway happens, that likely will not be able to be developed.
Right.
And then obviously to the west of that, it's still in that direct path, so what can develop there, the airport's gonna have a big say. Fairfax will have very little say.
Is this a two-way runway?
I don't know the details of that, this is just based off the information they provided last Tuesday.
Right.
So, but it does have this zone going both directions, east and west.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's pretty clear that, they put a runway there, it's gonna have a huge impact on Fairfax rural development. And that's a big growth area for Fairfax.
Yeah.
The airport has said, that a potential power plant, in this area would have huge impacts on their planning that they've been doing for long term. Well, it's supposed the same thing for Fairfax. Fairfax has been around for 90 years as Fairfax, and longer before that is Vanderbilt. Fairfax has been planning for decades as well.
But Tuesday was the first we heard of this new proposed airstrip.
No, they've talked about this proposed runway, but my understanding, Fairfax has not been included in any of their planning.
Right.
So they've been planning this runway, which is significant impact on Fairfax without any input for Fairfax. I just want to make sure everybody on the P and Z in the city of Fairfax understands the implications of this. They talk about, well, the implications to the airport, well, what are the implications to Fairfax?
Absolutely.
I think that needs to be considered as well.
And Shane, it looks to me like on this map that this new runway would be almost a full mile closer to Fairfax and then a little bit further to the west,
Yeah,
closer to Fairfax.
yeah, based on the exhibit they provided last week.
So the air traffic we're seeing would be that much closer and that much lower coming in.
Yeah,
And larger, they had mentioned Airbuses, I know at the council meeting.
the thing I don't understand from a planning standpoint is, city of Cedar Rapids is to the north, city of Fairfax is to the northwest, directly, adjacent to the airport. Why would they plan growth and development towards those communities? Why wouldn't they plan to the south, away from it? And they're also, planning across two major roadways. They gotta cross Wright Brothers Boulevard and they gotta cross Edgewood Road. There's no significant roadways to the south. So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot to go in planning that we don't know. But those are two huge starters that, raise a red flag. What are your impacts to Cedar Rapids? What are your impacts to Fairfax? Which obviously they coordinated with Cedar Rapids, and they coordinated with Fairfax. And then, what are the costs to cross those roadways? I mean, you're talking tens of millions of dollars right there.
Cedar Rapids owns the airport.
Yeah,
I looked that up.
yeah, the land is Cedar Rapids,
Right.
so.
I thought the same thing about going south as well, when I first saw it, it makes way more sense to go south.
Big picture it does. Obviously, there's a lot of things we don't know at this
Right,
point, but still, again, if Fairfax would have been involved in those planning years ago, maybe we wouldn't know.
What impact would you anticipate for the future land use of residential to the south and west of Fairfax?
I mean, it's hard to say, residential that far out would probably be allowed, but the airport's gonna have a say in it, and then what kind of residential. It's gonna be limited, because
Right.
obviously you're only gonna have a certain type of buyer. So Fairfax is gonna have a lot less say of what type of development can happen there. Just because of demand, I mean, if you're in a direct flight path of a lot of large airplanes, it's gonna impact who you wanna develop there.
With the potential, I don't think, how much feet did you say Cedar Rapids has in front of their current runway? 5.5.
So just based on the property that they own,
Yeah.
to the west, they own about 8,000. There's a dimension on there. If you look at, the aerial, you can see the existing runway. You got a dimension there from the end of the runway from the west side. That goes out to the property that they own, and there's a little over 8,000 feet.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's about a mile and a half. Now, not to say they may not buy it more from those, but you have to assume that if you're looking to buy similar amounts of ground to the west of the future airport, future runway, which would take you pretty close to Maple Grove Road, which that's the 307 acres, be basically Maple Grove Road to the east, growth limits for Fairfax. That would very likely be undeveloped, period. Not just impacting the type of development, and that's, that's well over 50% of Fairfax's industrial growth area.
Right. Does that encroach on the 2080 acre?
Now, with the annexation agreement with the city, that is what it is.
Right.
But that, it doesn't stop the city of Cedar Rapids coming up and buying land in there. If they build that runway, they can still buy land in the city of Fairfax's growth area.
Yeah.
And Fairfax sees absolutely no gain from factories or anything.
Not that I'm on there, I don't know why they would.
The current runway, it's out of our,
Yeah, we wouldn't
No.
do anything.
all we're getting is,
All you're getting is a significant impact on your growth opportunities.
right.
Which if they went to the south side, to the west, Walford, another 3 miles or so to the west, but they're already in direct line of the existing road. So, not to say they may not be impacted, but obviously the impact will not be nearly as significant as it is to Fairfax.
Great.
That would essentially wipe out a huge, pretty much all the industrial right there.
Yeah.
That we've planned for.
And a
It
sizable chunk of residential, that's
Yeah.
where the development, after west side, golly, that's, yeah.
It's, could development happen further west? It could, but it's just gonna be less likely to happen. It's gonna be slower type of development. It's gonna be more restricted, limited for, just give Fairfax less opportunities.
Give city infrastructure covering miles. So,
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to.
water mains.
Yeah.
So your cost per foot of your infrastructure is gonna be significantly more expensive. So,
Well, is there anything positive to the runway that they proposed?
for Fairfax, yeah, not that I'm aware of. The airport is an asset. Really, I don't wanna say it's not, but absolutely planning efforts been short-sighted. Has completely rejected any consideration for Fairfax.
Better than that. He said that here.
So do you know for the even minutes from 3:18:25 and their zone grab? Do the one right above.
Yep.
I know what you're talking about. All right, so if you guys recall back in March, Chris had presented us with a airport draft of what they wanted to have for a board. Board would basically not have any Fairfax representation whatsoever. Pretty much would be all appointed by Cedar Rapids. Obviously, with our proximity to the airport, I felt like that was a no-go. We have to have representation with our proximity. And I believe previous agreement we were represented.
We are, yeah, the
Yeah.
current zoning, airport zoning, it's in your packet. We do, our council would see two of the members of that board of adjustment of the airport. These proposed changes would remove Fairfax from that.
So at that time, we said, thanks, but no thanks, and we haven't heard anything since, have we? Sue and Chris, I know you guys are playing catch up. We're talking about the new runway proposed by CID to the north of Wright Brothers. And obvious impact it would have on our future land use to the south. It's about 307 acres, pretty much the majority of future land use industrial and a large swath of residential to the west. Definitely have negative impact based on that proposition. Any thoughts?
Does this extend all the way out to what is zone on the airport map then?
So that's
Sorry.
That's basically the approach area. If you look at current. The land owned back, obviously, I think it's 8,000, a little over 8,000 feet is owned. By the city and airport. So they could potentially come in and. Wire said land. For that project. Based on the last council meeting, obviously. There was opposition to the Alliant project we've been discussing. If you look at where the runway is in the, approach area of said airport. Or its new airstrip. That area is not.
There was opposition by the airport.
Right, but it's not in. The flight path for that runway either, so.
Things aren't hearing.
Correct. That would be next to the Trevero site.
You're quite a ways off path there.
I'm not a pilot nor do I, gonna be one.
They want to keep it.
Not probably. I don't know how you would veer that far off anyway. Right. So. Granted, I understand it'd be a big building there, but I don't see how it impacts. Even if they do move forward with that project. Or if we do.
Right. Well, according to their. What they've drawn out, that's.
Also data center, that would be closer than that project, so.
On the other project, yeah.
So because of the staff, right now? Is that part of the problem?
Part of it, yeah. That would be one, visibility would be another one that they mentioned, and,
Well, they're all like. You're up 100 feet, and they're all like.
right, but I think there might have been something mentioned about potential turbulence. Based on. Heat or whatever that was coming out.
Which originally the airport was gonna do some studies on, I don't know where they're at with that. That was it, I was at both, the airport commission meetings, and they had mentioned some studies on that kind of stuff. I don't know where they're at with that, if they're still gonna get those studies or not, but one of the airport commission said regardless, at the meeting, said regardless of the findings of the study, the airport commission is still against this being Fairfax.
So that, I mean. And they were also, at the council meeting, that they were supposed to provide the council with some letters that they had written to Google.
I'll let Cynthia comment on that.
Yeah, I believe Councilman Daley asked if they had submitted opposition to the data center projects, and he said the exact same correspondence was sent, so Mike asked for those to be sent to us. We have not received them yet, so yesterday, we filed a public information request with the airport and the city of Cedar Rapids, and that was one of the things on the list.
We also asked for that 50-year plan at the airport and referenced several times and we never.
Right.
Several other items we asked for.
Well, I reckon in that 50-year plan, they would be also referencing taking us out of the board.
They made any mention of who the 50-year plan was distributed to?
I don't think they did.
They mentioned meetings they had in 2022, and they said Fairfax was invited and at the table. None of the staff that was here then were aware of it. So we've asked for those agendas and minutes and exhibits and maps.
One thing to keep in mind, obviously. We have a project we're looking at, obviously. Airport's got a project they're looking at. But at the end of the day, we're here to do what's in the best interest of Fairfax. And obviously. That runway has a negative impact on what we're trying to do to the south, future land use. And I also don't want to be inhibited for our expansion to the south. You know, obviously, we have a proposed really good project on the table. I get their opposition to it, but.
Well, yeah, they have multiple negative impacts on several projects in our
Correct.
and no good grace whatsoever. As far as I can see. You know, wanting to provide us to the board, so. I don't see if there's any benefit at all for Fairfax from that proposal.
And like I said, if they go to this, there's still an option for them to go south. That doesn't affect anything.
One would think, I mean, to me, that makes the most sense, but. You know,
Well, we don't know what land, who owns the land out there, and correct, you know. But. In the big picture, looking at it from that, obviously, that makes most sense. And. I mean, even if it was north of the airport, I mean.
I mean, 50 years
There's nothing
ago,
out
that
there.
might have made sense, I don't know, but.
Right.
As of right now, as it stands,
Well, our current zoning in our ordinances was agreed to by Cedar Rapids, Lynn County, and Fairfax in 1997. It's dated with that. That's what this map is. That I set in front of you. This map was part of that agreement in 1997.
Right.
That still is the current zoning for the city, which the possible proposed power plant would work in that, with that zone.
Right. Well, you know, the proposed power plant is a huge benefit for Fairfax. And the airstrip does absolutely nothing but give us negative benefit. And as a homeowner, you know, you know, the new pattern, the new landing pattern is right over my shop. You know,
you won't know if it's a train or an airport.
Planes, trains, and automobiles, I reckon. But I don't need more over there
Right.
on that. And, you know, there's always a concern with the budgets on airplanes for up property. Holy crap. You know, especially on a new proposal, and it's bad enough when people move into existing, start bitching about it. You put a new,
Well, even bigger aircraft.
creating a new flyover top, proposed, what could be our proposed residential is, and existing housing. To me, it's the same. Especially since we don't benefit from any tax benefits or anything else, right?
You might have a more direct blade when you want to go somewhere.
Yeah, well, you do get it flies all the time, so. You know,
If I need to catch a longer flight, I got plenty of options around me.
yeah,
Anybody else have any more thoughts?
Yes, do we know, Cedar Rapids, I'm guessing this, you could go off both ways on this, right? Approach and takeoff theoretically.
Theoretically, I mean, I don't know what else they have planned, but yeah, I mean, most places you should be able to. I can land and depart in both directions, so.
Just curious what they asked, Cedar Rapids, they built that up, the Evelyn and that other side, the straight east of there.
Yeah, I get it. We're made aware of this Tuesday, a week ago, so we're still in the information gathering stages. Just trying to get all of our residents and board members up to speed on what we know at this time. Just that this is part of our plan with people.
all we know is they're trying to stick to us.
Twice. I don't have anything further. Yeah, I think we. Not that one
I think so.
around, so. Obviously, that'll probably be more discussion moving forward, but. Just want to make sure everybody was aware. Of the current situation or and where things stand, so
We just kind of have to hurry up and wait now. Point. See what. Goes further. What happens? Is there anything we can do?
That's your next agenda.
Discussion and possible recommendation to council regarding removing all height restrictions from M1 light industrial, M2 heavy industrial zoning districts. Obviously, we've been discussing this one. Well, very good. Over the last couple of months with the proposed Alliant project. We go 3 stories. So current height. 3 stories or 45 feet. That's light industrial M1. Same for M2, right?
I believe.
Yeah. Couple things here. One, obviously, Alliant project. 2. You know, I think this gives a pretty clear indication of us wanting to expand our industrial south with the proposed runway. So I think it kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
Great. And I do a plan, Chris, obviously, you were there.
What's that?
I said I toured the plan, you toured the. Is
Yeah, I toured the plant. Those stacks are 199 feet
that what they are?
at Marshalltown.
And
They mentioned 250, I think.
Yeah, max, the best proposal would be max 250, 190 to max.
I think we're still crunching the numbers, but
Now remember, it was, you guys have already taken action on the heavy industrial, adding the exception, as a special exception, that will be at council in September. But this would remove height restrictions going forward on both these districts, essentially giving Fairfax control of that eastern land.
that's what we need to do in order to control our own destiny on that. I mean, that's the bottom line. That needs to be removed so we can control our own destiny and not be the stepchild.
The other thing to keep in mind, when projects are presented, they do have to go to council for approval, so. It's not like us removing it, just willy-nilly allows anything to come in, so, that's one thing I wanted to reiterate. While we discuss this topic,
It is a recommendation.
we are recommending, yes.
But there's, there's such a big benefit for the town of that up there that. We need to do what we can to recommend future growth, I think.
Agreed.
So we need a motion, we need to talk about it a little more,
Whatever you guys wanna do, you guys wanna discuss it further, we can.
I'm gonna motion we remove the height requirement.
Second.
Who's seconded? Sorry.
Chris, that's great.
And is that, in both M1 and M2?
Yes.
Your motion.
We have a motion to remove height restrictions in M1 and M2. Have a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All ayes. Discussion and possible recommendation of council regarding changes to chapter 167 airport zoning regs. Sure.
So I've been looking at this pretty close since this all came up at the airport. My take in as the zoning administrator for Fairfax is what Eliant had originally come and proposed to this board would fit within these airport zoning regulations. Again, these are the current ones that are in our ordinances. This chapter was agreed to by Lynn County, the Airport Commission, and the city of Fairfax. I believe it was in 90, I guess it was in 96 right there, it looks like. I have spoke with Charlie Nichols with Lynn County zoning, and he agrees that this would currently fit within this chapter. So I guess I put it on your agenda early on, not knowing exactly where we're at with this thing, because this just came in some of it last Tuesday, like I say. At this time, I don't know that we want to do any changes on this. Maybe table it or keep it in our back pocket for future, but as of right now, it seems
I
like
don't think it's on a table.
this seems to be on our side.
Right.
Where everyone's at. Here's some, we didn't put in it, Brian Furter did some calculations on that stack height, you want. I didn't put that in there, so it was in council's packet on Tuesday, but not this packet.
Yeah, so trying to shoot my way up here, I gotta remember that, so I was doing a comparison to the water tower currently. The elevation change down on that site, there's what's up here now, and the static heights, and if I remember right, it's roughly 60 feet higher than what our water tower is currently. So, and that was if they do the 250.
At 250.
Yes, the max, so, just, trying to compare it, just because, why not? Yeah, at that time, we weren't exactly aware of what direction they were coming from, but, just comparatively speaking. Everybody wants to know, or at least I did, so that's why I did. Elevator, I'm not really sure on, it's a little lower than the tower, but I don't know what that height is. Wish I did.
you explain on 167.08 what exactly that means then for page 8. I just said airport planning commission, where 2 members will be appointed by the Fairfax City Council, 2 by the fiscal 3.
So that's board of adjustment, essentially. If there's a conflict, it goes to the airport board of adjustment. Our city council would appoint 2 members, Cedar Rapids City Council would appoint 2 members, and then those 4 individuals would choose a chairman. That would be your 5 votes to 7. Key differences.
So that gives the city of Fairfax protection for any of the.
Well, it gives us a seat at the table, for sure. 2 seats at the table.
Yeah.
This is what we looked at back in April, that they were potentially changing.
That was what we
The draft.
previously discussed, and we were.
And if you go a page back, yeah,
But this, so that this is 2 different bodies, right, though, but that's the airport zoning commission and the board of adjustment, both read that way.
well, we currently have no
Right.
representative. And then there's your established, height above sea level. 1,013.9 feet above beach sea level, the horizontal. I think Brian, you came up with 1,010 feet for a stack height of 200 feet high.
4 feet from the grid.
And again, that plant is air cooled, it's not a water cooled plant, so there's no fog, no water coming out of any of that stuff like you would see in some of the, well, our neighbors over here, they've got a water cooled system.
Google have cooling towers too.
Yes,
That's what it looks like.
And that's a big water cooled, correct? I know.
We'll move on to number 8. Discussion of steps necessary to site a power generating station at Fairfax.
Take this.
Do a short list.
So the steps necessary, and you guys, we discussed this a couple months ago. You guys, P and Z planning zones, that would take the first step was to make the recommendation, special exception within the heavy industrial district. That will go to council in September. Council will need to take action on that. Including a public hearing, which is scheduled for September. We'll have a public hearing on that. Council will then look at that ordinance. And vote on it. If that ordinance were to pass and Alliant were indeed to present City of Fairfax with a proposal for a station, they would have to rezone that land, any land, to heavy industrial, which then that would again come to the planning and zoning. You guys would make a recommendation to council. That would then return to council with another public hearing for the rezoning, in which council could make their decision on that. If indeed council were to pass that rezoning, then the Alliant Energy would have to go in front of the Board of Adjustment, because that district does require it as a special exception, in which the Board of Adjustment would get the final say. I guess the takeaway on that is, in order for this to happen, every one of the citizen-led boards would have a vote on this. There would be 3 public hearings before this could ever happen. So there is definitely due diligence there from the city of Fairfax.
Yeah. Many steps ahead.
Many steps ahead. Any questions?
All right, moving on, this review of ordinance 123, heavy industrial district changes. So
Last month, 2 months ago.
2 months ago. Obviously added the exception. To be added of power generating stations. Based on our previous discussions.
This is just for your review, this is what we discussed, what the recommendation of the council was. Just sticking it in here for you guys to review and make sure that's what you're looking for before council takes a look at it.
They could come to the meeting in September.
Oh, yeah, of course, obviously, the meeting in September.
Yeah.
And persuade council, your viewpoints.
He will be gone.
Yes, I will be on vacation out of country in September, so I will not be at the council. Any questions on that?
We look good, everybody good with it?
I think we pretty well agreed on it when we proposed it.
Yeah, that went through unanimously.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
We had some pretty good discussion on that, so.
Yeah.
Number 10, discussion and possible recommendation of council regarding amending the Fairfax urban renewal plan. Remember what this was. Pickleball courts. And using tax financing on that and
Fire station.
fire station. Got some points.
So, the city of Fairfax uses, tip money, tax increment financing to pay for many different projects in town. It gives the ability to use the increment, which is the, improved value of the property, before it was established as a tip area. And so we're able to do projects such as the complex was filled with tip money, and residents don't see any tax increase. So it's an economic development tool that the city takes advantage of, the state established. So all of the projects that we plan to use TIF money have to be listed in our urban renewal plan. And so we have 2 new projects that we borrowed money in the last bond that we just did. It was just funded in July. And pickleball court project with a tennis court it's gonna be at the complex. I think it's gonna have 4 or 6 pickleball
I think
courts.
4 pickleball and 2 tennis.
4 and 1.
4 and 1, okay. And then the fire department is planning to put an addition on the fire station. And so we also borrowed money for that in the bond. And so it's part of the process. The council at their September meeting will have a hearing on amending the plan and then take action to enable these projects to be paid with TIF, that paperwork we get from bonding attorney. But part of the process is to have the planning and zoning review the plan amendments, and that's what you're doing. And if you have any questions, I can talk TIF all night. But I don't think you want.
Is there a parking lot going into that, or is it part of the last parking lot?
There's not a new parking lot going in as part of this project,
Okay, so it's just the courts
just
itself.
the courts, yeah.
Well, it seems to be a pretty hot thing, big fall. Yeah, you use. My daughter works out at Pickle Palace, so. You use.
Joe loves his parks.
We love Joe. Stop that.
We just need a motion to this.
Correct.
I'll do that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, a second. All in favor,
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All ayes. All right, discussion and possible recommendation of council regarding sewer and water connection fees for accessory dwelling units. Additional bills on already.
Right. This is a new sheet that came out from the state. I just wanted to update you guys on it. I know we've been talking about this for months and haven't really gotten anywhere on it. Based on this, I don't know that we,
We sit and watch for a bit.
yeah, maybe sit and watch for a bit. I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
I think the state's put us in an unfortunate situation. By getting involved in this. Again, my main concerns are infrastructure capabilities to handle 2 dwelling units on each property. In talking to some of the residents, recently, someone pointed out to me the garbage service. You know, if you have 2 residents, you just increased your garbage service twice over.
Yeah.
You know, how does the city recap that budget? So this, again, is I think an overreach by the state. It didn't hold control, but I don't know that we want to challenge it.
We're kind of in its infancy right now.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Hopefully the state relooks at it.
You heard anything from any neighboring, like Walker, Ely?
I haven't heard from any of the neighboring ones, you know, I have,
Hello.
I can tell you the building officials meeting. Probably been 3 or 4 months ago, we briefly discussed it, and you know, if you start talking about home rule, states beat up on that for years, so, you know, to fall back to that, it's a pretty long stretch, so. Again, it's probably just sit back and wait.
what's the deal in Cedar Rapids? Are they for it? Yeah, I mean, what?
I haven't really talked to Cedar Rapids, I talked to Lynn County, the counties are kind of for it, it takes them out of the mix.
Sure.
They're on septics as well, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. I really get it from a
Quite a
county
bit different.
standpoint.
Yeah.
But from a city standpoint, with the infrastructure we have, you know, our infrastructure is based on 1 dwelling unit per lot,
As
not 2.
Right.
And so it really kind of messes up, I think, our planning, what we already have in the ground, you know, as far as water mains. Projections and calculations moving forward with water mains and sewer mains. I mean, realistically, if it's allowed 2 dwelling units per lot. We almost have to double that, you know, take that into account, I guess, from the engineering standpoint of what we need to do, so. Again, I think. Maybe we need to reach out to the state level. I did before the governor signed this. I reached out twice to say that the city of Fairfax would be opposed to something like this for the reasons I've just stated. But it made the governor signed it, so. We haven't had any requests for it yet. We've had 2 people, contact City Hall and ask about it. The one that couldn't happen anyhow, they didn't have room back in their backyard for it. The other one I think is gonna end up doing an addition to the existing house, which I don't think impacts the city near as much. Is a completely different dwelling unit backyard.
Yeah.
And then, you know, to our points we've had before, it's parking on the street, you know, things like that. This could create real problems in 50 years.
Probably let this one
I will
simmer for a little bit. See what happens.
Yeah.
Opportunity for citizens not on the agenda? Okay, here's. A motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
We have a second? Second. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
All right.
Aye.